Welcome to part 2 of this journey looking at what is left of the old Midland and Great Northern Joint Railway line between North Walsham and Melton Constable, over 60 years after closure. In part 1 we finished at where the new Elsham bypass, the A140, crossed the site of the old railway line, marked on this map by the red cross on the right. On this map, the old line runs across the middle of the screen from right to left. Elshamtown Station is roughly in the middle, marked by the red circle. The letters FB indicate the station footbridge, number 129, and the letters SB indicate the signal box. The section of line between what is now the bypass, the red cross, and the station is now the Benningham Road, and that's where we shall start our journey. In part 1 we ended where the old alignment disappeared into a field, and that was to the right of this shot, behind the hedge. The road on the left is Benningham Road, and that was built on the course of the old railway line into Aylsham when this bypass was built, and that is where we shall go now. And as we drive down Benningham Road, we follow exactly the old railway line, and it is interesting to reflect that during the lifetime of the Midland and Great Northern Railway, not a single passenger lost their lives. I don't think that can be said of the road network. Now, directly in front now is the site of Elshamtown Station. The road curves to the left, and that is roughly where the sidings were. We will drive round and into the car park, which is where the station used to be. Elshamtown Station is just under 30 miles from Yarmouth Beach, sometimes called Elsham North, so as not to confuse it with the Great Eastern Railway station not far away. Here there were 2 platforms, a passing loop, a very tall signal box and a footbridge, also a goods yard and goods shed. The station building was pavilion style in red brick with light coloured coins. And there's a picture of the old, and this is, I think, is probably the station master's house, which was right opposite. And this is looking round the site of the old station, and we finish looking back towards North Walsham. And here's some of the original Midland and Great Northern Railway fencing, which we have seen before at Honing. And this is bridge number 130, right at the end of the platforms. This was an elliptical masonry arch. This carries Drabblegate over what is now the Weaver's Way. Typical brick bridge we've seen many times before, and this is looking back towards North Walsham, and the station would have been just through that arch. Now, before we continue, let's leave the route for a few minutes and look at something else. Let's take a break now from the route and look at a couple of types of locomotives that plied their trade over this line. One of the earliest were the Hudswell Clark 044 tank engines, only 7 of these being built, especially for the Lynn and Fakenham and the Yarmouth North Norfolk railways between 1878 and 1881. This is number 9 Fakenham, which was delivered in 1879. And funnily enough, this was the locomotive used on the first train when this link from North Walsham to Melton Constable was opened. And this is number 40, Martham, on the turntable at Yarmouth Beach. These locos formed an attractive group of locos that symbolised all that was distinctive about the Midland and Great Northern. They were all withdrawn by 1933. Hudswell Clark eventually became part of the Hunslet Engine Company of Leeds. One of the most prolific, and a type that ran up to the closure of the system, was H.G. Ivert's 4 mixed traffic 260s. 162 of these were built between 1947 and 1952, the number sequence being 43000 to 43161. They were a 2 outside cylinder design with Walsham's valve gear and a boiler pressure of 225 pounds. This is number 43161 at Melton Constable. Just coming in off the King's Lynn line, and this is a very grubby 43110, a few months before closure of the line. Number 43106 remains the only example still in existence, and that can be seen at the Severn Valley Railway. Interestingly, a design that was developed from this type was the BR Standard Class 4, one of which, number 76084, is seen here on Old Midland and Great Northern Metals at Weybourne on the North Norfolk Railway. And now let's get back to the route. Okay, we're back on the old railway line again now as we leave Elsham, and we're still on the Weaver's Way, which is a public footpath, and this is bridge number 127 over a small stream. This is joisting concrete, rebuilt in 1912 after the floods. And this is a plate girder bridge number 126. This is over the River Bure. And it was a lovely bright sunny day when I took these shots. Nice and crisp, but cold. And this is the next bridge. This is number 124. This is a semicircular masonry, and this is what's called a cattle creep, basically because cattle used it to go from one field to another. And we will carry on, and yet another bridge, and this is number 123. This is an elliptical masonry arch, and this carried the Cromer Road over the old railway. Again, we've seen this type so many times now, it's getting a bit boring, but it's interesting to see that it's still here. Now, after leaving Elsham, the line generally climbs towards Bluestone. In fact, the first section is 1 in 100, and here we are approaching another bridge, and this is number 122, semicircular masonry, and would you believe it, it's a cattle creep. And there we have a look down, very similar to all the others. And now we are approaching Blickling Road. This is the new Blickling Road, and once we cross over, we will see another bridge which carried the old Blickling Road over the railway. And we're still on the Weaver's Way here, and once I get through this gate, you'll see there's a path going up on the left that takes you up onto another footpath that uses the old bridge. I'm just turning round here, and there we go. We're still on the old railway track, in a bit of a cutting now. And there's bridge number 121, an elliptical masonry arch, which we've seen many times now, or the type we've seen many times. And there's still a little bit left of the old railway line after we go through this bridge, and we eventually come to the end of the path, and we can't get any further because there in front is a bank, and then there's a field the other side, and that's as far as we can go. And this is on top of the bridge. This is the old Blickling Road that went over the railway. Moving on now from the outskirts of Aylsham, this is where the line crossed a small road at Abel Heath. Here the line was in a small cutting, and the road went over the railway via an elliptical masonry arch type bridge, number 120. This is looking generally east back towards Aylsham, and the line would have been roughly in line with those electricity poles. And this is the view looking generally west towards Melton Constable, and the line followed along the left of that road to our next location, which is where we will go now. After the last location, the line disappears under fields until it crosses Corston Road here, and here we find the site of a level crossing with gatehouse number 24 on the left. This is looking back along the route of the old railway towards Aylsham, where the line has completely disappeared under that field. And this is looking towards Melton Constable, with the typical Wilkinson and Jarvis brick gatehouse on the left. The line would have passed in front, roughly where that tree is. Now the next point of interest we shall come to, which we'll see in a minute, is the station called Bluestone, or more correctly Bluestone for Corston, a very isolated station 33 3/4 miles from Yarmouth. Here there was a single platform with a small pavilion style station building, also a signal box, 2 sidings and a head shunt, shunting being carried out with a tow rope. There was also a level crossing at the Aylsham end. The station was closed in 1916 due to lack of use. Today it's a private dwelling, and as you can see from the satellite shot, it is now hidden from view by trees. Okay, moving on from Bluestone now. This is a satellite shot showing the old railway line picked out by that line of trees heading up to Corpsey at the top of the screen. The next point of interest will be Sphinx Lane Bridge, shown by that arrow, where we shall go now. And this is Sphinx Lane Bridge, a brick bridge. This is the Sphinx Lane itself, and looking back towards Aylsham from the bridge, and looking towards Corpsey again from the bridge. And this is the line of trees we saw on the satellite shot heading off to Corpsey. The line now is generally falling, and this is Corpsey Station, or Corpsey and Saxthorpe. This is looking from the bridge which carried Station Road over the railway, and this is Station Road, and this is looking back towards Aylsham from the Station Road bridge. And that's another shot of the station, which from a similar position that this was taken. Now Corpsey and for Saxthorpe was 36.5 miles from Yarmouth Beach. Pavilion style station building, 2 platforms, signal box, cattle dock, sidings, and a long refuge siding on the downside. This is the end of the single line sections, which have been all the way from Yarmouth Beach, and the beginning of an 18-mile double-track section to Rainham Park. The single line sections were worked by Tyler's electric tablet system, and after 1908 the Whittaker tablet exchanging apparatus was used on the engines and stations. And now we shall head off towards Melton Constable in that direction. Now, the only thing of interest between Corpsey and Melton Constable is Thurning Siding, originally called Corpsey Ballast Siding, opened in 1895. It served a local gravel pit, and there were sidings and a signal box, but the pit closed in 1930 and the sidings were removed in 1935. And as you can see from this recent satellite shot, there is nothing left but trees. But you can make out the route of the old railway line snaking through the middle of the screen from right to left. So here we are at the end of our journey at Melton Constable, 41.5 miles from Yarmouth Beach. This was called the Crew of Norfolk, a not very flattering nickname for the Midland and Great Northern Railway was the Muddle and Go Nowhere, a little unfair given that from Melton Constable you could travel to Cromer via Sheringham, Yarmouth Beach via North Walsham and Stalham, Norwich City via Lenwade, and also over to King's Lynn, Spalding and Peterborough. This was a large station with one Long Island platform, 600 yards or 548 metres long. The building was in galt brick with red brick dressings. A large canopy supported by cast iron columns and spandrels marked with the letters CNR, Central Norfolk Railway. Access to the platform was via a brick and rolled iron joist road bridge 104. There were 2 signal boxes. On the north side of the station was a goods yard and goods shed. On the south side was a loco shed, a 47-foot turntable and extensive workshops, including a locomotive and carriage works, a wagon repair shop, boiler shop, paint shop, and even a concrete works. And you can see from the map how all these buildings and lines were spread out over quite a large area. But unfortunately now it's just one big industrial estate, and nothing remains apart from a few buildings. And these are some old pictures of the station. It was a busy station with all these 4 routes radiating out, and that's a shot of inside one of the workshops. Very impressive. And these are what's left now. These brick buildings on the left and behind are all part of the old works and sheds. Here's a clue to the railway connection, and here's the bus shelter with the old canopy brackets built into it with the CNR letters cast in the spandrels, and more connections with the railway. And here is the Railway Institute built for the staff, with the inscription built into the gable end wall. And these are the houses built for the staff in Blickling Road, based on arts and craft movement design. And this is Ashley Terrace, some more houses built for the staff. And this is Colville Road, and the next one is Melton Street, all railway houses, and even a school built in 1896. So that's the end of our journey along the Midland and Great Northern Joint Railway line from North Walsham to Melton Constable. Or if you have seen my other videos from Yarmouth Beach to Melton Constable, now over 60 years after closure. Hope you've enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.